Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state.
Here we are again. Another podcast, another episode, another production of Innovation Unplugged. I don't know. This probably be episode 54, 5, 6.
Maybe more.
Maybe getting close to 60. I don't know. We started with 51 back in January.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's been fun. So we're here today. I'm Houston Blackwood, Workforce Director for the Innovation Center. To my right, your left, if you're watching, is Kailah Dozier, Director of Marketing and Corporate Partnerships. And on my left is Donny Jones from West Alabama Works. But he's got a lot of titles. He's kind of like Ira Jones. He's a man of mystery. He's been around for a while and knows all the things.
More infamous than
more infamous than famous, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
So Dr. Jones recently got a job with NATO.
Oh, wow.
He worked at Drake State, and he got a job at NATO. He was in the Louisiana National Guard. Apparently, he's one of like 3 guys in the world that can do a thing. And that's what he's doing with NATO.
Well, one thing you can count on is I can't do anything. So that's a good thing.
Well, but and you're very humble, but I've heard you speak many, many times, and I've followed your growth as long as I've been in the workforce. And so it's an honor to have you here. So Donny Jones, who are you? Where'd you come from?
Well, I have been in the chamber world for about 27 years here at West Alabama, at the West Alabama Chamber of Commerce, where I'm the CWO, which is Chief Workforce Officer. I've had many titles there, but have worked there basically most of my life, and really involved in the business community. And so through that, the chamber ventured out and started West Alabama Works, of course, as a partnership with the state of Alabama and the Department of Commerce at the time. And so through that, about 14 years, we have been doing since 2014 when we started West Alabama Works. And so I'm the executive director for that organization as well.
Gotcha.
So those are 2 different full-time roles.
Yes.
Wow.
They are.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, not surprised. So I was studying that and trying to figure out how that works, because around the state, Alabama Works, some of those chapters, we call them,
the regions. Yep.
regional offices, they're going through a transition time.
They are.
Yeah.
And a lot of those have dissolved because of the realignment, which is not a bad thing. I mean, it's always good to look at fresh approaches to workforce development and what we're doing and how can we do it better. The beauty of West Alabama Works is it is truly an industry-driven model of workforce development. So it's one of the only workforce systems that is tied to the Workforce Board. Used to be also the Regional Workforce Council, but also a regional chamber.
Right.
So we do a lot of training across the country for chambers on how to get involved and engaged in a more robust workforce development system. So a really neat opportunity for us nationally.
That's interesting you say that. I was on the chamber board in my hometown for a little while as a workforce person, and it was a great group, but we did a whole bunch of events, and I like the events. Some Depot Days was a blast. It's like dog days up in Ardmore, but I was like, hey, where's the workforce? Like, let's do some workforce, and we would promote things that just never went anywhere. So the conversation was always, are you an events chamber or a workforce chamber, economic chamber, and so it seems like you guys are all up in the workforce. I'm sure you have your events, but
we are, and we actually have one of the largest workforce divisions in the country of any chamber.
Explain that.
We have roughly close to 20 full-time employees that work on workforce development. So we have a lot of grants that we work with, for example, with Ingram State. One of the things I do want to brag on is our relationship with the community college system.
That's very good.
So we work directly with Ingram State when it comes to the federal prison system. We've actually been one of the partners that have brought Ingram State into the federal prison system in the state of Alabama. So we work on that in the RRCs, which are in Mobile, Montgomery, and Birmingham, which is the step-down centers where we have people from all over the country that are from Alabama that are in a federal prison coming back to the state. So we work together to train and then place them in jobs. Of course, one of our biggest programs is called Building Hope Alabama, which is for those justice impacted individuals. So it's a good marriage there. Matter of fact, 30 minutes ago, I was on the phone with Bevel State, and we're doing a program in Pickens County with the Youth Build program and one of our work grants. So a lot of work being done. Of course, we work closely with Shelton State, which is one of our flagship community colleges here in this region, and then Wallace-Selma as well, that we're doing training every single day. Matter of fact, we had our team with Wallace-Selma yesterday. So a lot of integration with the community college system, because the way we approach it is we're the voice of business when it comes to a chamber of commerce, but we also have to understand who the trainers are, and those partners are mission critical for everything that we do, which the community college system is probably our number one partner when it comes to that, other than the K-12 system, which is, of course, where we get our workforce for tomorrow.
Very much so.
That's awesome. I come here, we can look up and read all of the things online to try to educate ourselves, but just that breakdown, that I didn't realize y'all had done that many different things with different community colleges across the state. That's awesome.
Well, that's just in this region. So we
Yeah.
also have contracts where we run modern manufacturing for the
Okay.
entire state of Alabama. We're in 40 high schools.
Okay.
And so each one of those high schools are represented with a community college. So I would say probably 20 of the community colleges
Pretty much
are
everybody.
probably tied from a dual enrollment perspective. So, one of the things that we created was the Center of Excellence for modern manufacturing. What that does is that creates fidelity across the entire state program of modern
So
manufacturing.
important.
Yes. And so that's what we see so many times when you go into a CTE center, whatever that instructor's experience is, that's what gets taught, right?
Sure.
And so what we do is we train every instructor in modern manufacturing the same way. They're all trained together, and then we are constantly working Barry May's very involved in this with the workforce division of the community college system.
Right.
David Walters, ACE is in that program. So all those kids go through ACE. We actually are integrating, and I don't know if they've talked to you guys about it, but we're also integrating Skills for Success as part of the lab. So the students can actually go through Skills for Success along with their labs. And so they'll come out with multiple layers, but the biggest thing is those students are coming out, graduating high school with a full-time, high-paying, high-demand job in manufacturing.
What are you tying from the Skills Success catalog into that?
The forklift training,
I was hoping
heavy
you'd say that.
equipment. Matter of fact, we're working right now with several companies, and we're in the bid process for forklift simulators, because the thing we've got to realize is a lot of those students are 16 and 17 years old.
Yeah.
And so we're doing the simulator work. They're able to get their CLA, Certified Logistics Associate, as part of the program. So they come out with ACE, they come out with OSHA 10, they come out with soccer credentials, apprenticeships. We have students that are in modern manufacturing right now that leave school every day, go and build $100,000 cars at Mercedes as youth apprentices. So the modern manufacturing program actually has one of the first automotive youth apprenticeships. I think it is one of the first youth apprenticeships in the state of Alabama, in partnership with the Alabama Office of Apprenticeship. So a lot going on. We also, we do a lot of the outreach in North Alabama. Matter of fact, yesterday we had an outreach in DeKalb County. We had over 102 job seekers with 5 industries that we were placing jobs for in partnership with AIDT. So there is a lot going on with West Alabama Works. We're not just a regional workforce system. We're more of a statewide when you look at modern manufacturing and some of our partnerships with the community college system and with AIDT. And then the other thing that we're very well known for, matter of fact, this next week we'll be presenting at the ACT conference. We'll be in Philadelphia the week after that. And we just had several visits. Athens, Georgia actually is modeling West Alabama Works. So we're coaching them through that. And we have MOUs with over 20 communities across the country for our WOW program.
Yep. So I was familiar with WOW when I was at Calhoun. It was a big deal.
Right.
And we had it a couple different places. One time on campus, which was a nightmare for transportation and buses. Worked much better at an outside facility, but it was really good. That's a diverse, and hearing all that and reading it back, it seems like you can't say no, like we can't say no.
Yeah, we have that disease, both organizations. But when it comes to helping people, that's how you have to be, because everybody's needs are different. When you look at the fact, for example, we were talking about earlier, the Building Hope Alabama program that we have, 8.9% of our entire workforce population has a felony in the state of Alabama.
8%?
8%. Really, it's over 8%. Now, when you look at that number and you start talking about the non-participation rate, which is the flavor of the month that everybody's talking about now, impacting workforce, and you begin to narrow that down and look at the number of people who are actually non-participants, the real, 24 to 55-year-olds, and then you take the fact that 8% of those, not 8% of those, but 8% of the total workforce has a felony, that's a huge portion of that.
That's almost 10%.
Oh, yeah. And then you take a look at the fact that the majority of people who are in the non-participation rate have two major barriers. One is childcare, and the second is transportation. And then you take the felonies, then you're looking at the fact that we really don't have as many people as a lot of folks think in the non-participation rate.
You're right. I was in between recordings. I ran down to the gas station to get a Red Bull, and the lady working behind the counter had her two daughters. I think they were twins, or they were Irish twins.
Right.
And I was like, hey, how you, just doing my thing. And they were like, oh, we're so ready to go back to school. And Mom was like, me too. I'm like, well, are you enjoying your summer? And Mom was like, well, we have a good time here. It's her store. She's like, but I can't afford childcare. This is my store, small business store. I can't afford childcare for these two for the month.
Well, if
and
you look,
she has a job. She has a business.
Oh, that's right. Well, if you look at Tuscaloosa, so let's take that experience that you just saw. In Tuscaloosa County alone, we are 8,000 seats short in childcare. 8,000 in this one county alone. Now, you can imagine what a Birmingham, a Huntsville, a Montgomery. So when you look at that, we as a state have got to do innovative things to create opportunities for childcare. And then the other big one is transportation. How do we solve those problems? And so, even from a community college systems perspective, transportation is a huge barrier. That's why Skills for Success has been, phenomenal. We're trying to use it more and more for pre-employment training and employment training. But one of the big barriers is getting to the training. And that's what you're finding where these online courses and everything are being much more successful. It's not just the convenience, but a lot of people have barriers that we as leaders don't understand because we've never had those barriers.
Sure. I would say, as a mom of a 2-year-old, I did not realize the childcare crisis that we were in until I had to walk through that. And with a job and with needing childcare, even being on waiting lists to get in, much less paying for childcare, it rocked my world. I mean, we were on 7 different waiting lists in Montgomery, had a tier of where we wanted to go, but it wasn't really a luxury at that point. It was, where can we get in? And so I know that there are resources out there. One of ours that we are a mouthpiece for is the Paths for Success Foundation, and they're doing a lot of work, or pursuing all of those options to offer. But in this area, what has been has there been any traction with the childcare piece? I know it's a hot topic of conversation, but
it's
use
funny
this
that
platform.
it's funny that you mentioned that. Neil Wade and I had a meeting
Sweet.
a while back, and one of the things that we really talked about was the 3 big barriers to workforce development is, like I said, childcare, transportation, affordable workforce housing. Not affordable housing, but affordable workforce housing. And so as we were talking about that, one of the things that we discussed was what's something that Pathways for Success could really sink their teeth in. And I was like, hey, the biggest thing that hits workforce and education is childcare. And so one of the things that they are partnered with us in is our 3x3 program at Shelton State Community College. And that is creating a fast track to in-home daycares. Now, A lot of people will say, well, what do you mean there? Well, if you're going to create childcare, like I just said, we're 8,000 seats short. A general childcare center can take anywhere from a standard, which might be 20 kids, to a mega center, which might be 100 kids. Well, 100 kid, 100
facility for
facility,
yeah,
that's millions of dollars. And so when you look at that and you look at the need across the state, how are we going to meet that need and build that many centers out unless we start utilizing our faith-based community and also our in-home daycares? So as we begin to work with that with Shelton State, which is led in the program, we're seeing the fact, well, let's step back. You were talking about yourself. You're a white-collar worker, right? And you tried more than likely to find work or childcare close to your work, right? For convenience.
Right.
32% of Alabama's population and workforce actually works in manufacturing and logistics, all right? But here's the fact. They don't want their childcare at their facility.
Sure.
They want it close to their home because many of them are working shift work.
Yeah.
But what are we constantly talking about? How do we create more mega centers? And so when you look at that, we really focused on the fact that there's such a huge percentage in West Alabama of people who work in manufacturing on rotating shifts, particularly in the automotive industry. We had to create opportunities for those in-home daycare centers. Give you a prime example, at Mercedes-Benz, they have a multi-million-dollar childcare center. The majority of the kids who actually are in that center right there on that campus are all the white-collar engineers and leadership, not
the 8 to 5 worker,
not the
versus
blue-collar
shift.
worker.
Yeah.
Yes. And so when you look at other places like Mazda Toyota in North Alabama, they looked at the same thing and they said it's better for us to do a program like Tutris to actually incentivize and help our employees find their own daycare that fits their needs.
Tutris.
Yes.
I met a guy somewhere a long time ago, and that's who he worked for.
Right. They've been very involved in our state. Matter of fact, we've got a plant that's going to be announcing very soon that they're going to offer that in one of our rural counties.
Expand on that. What that means. I think that's valuable to the listener.
Absolutely. So Tutris is their whole business plan is based on helping industry employees. So they'll partner with an industry and they'll help those employees find daycares.
Okay.
And so they have a network and they have a way of going in and finding the mom and pop daycare centers, the large centers, the in-home daycares, and actually creating a program inside a company. So, for example, a great example of success is Mazda Toyota's program, where they actually incentivize and they give a stipend to their employees for childcare.
Wow.
And so Tutris will actually administer that program for them. And so it's a great partnership. Once again, what we're finding in workforce development is nobody can be all things to all people.
Sure.
And you have to have those partners that actually can help with that.
That's interesting to me, hearing that company come back. I'm past that. My son turns 16 next month, so like we're golden, but just seeing the students, like we had biotechnician in Birmingham a while back, and one lady couldn't make it because she didn't have childcare on Friday nights.
That's right.
This class was Friday night and Saturday morning, and wherever she had her kid during the week, her child, she couldn't go there.
Especially if you don't live near family. Or I live in a small town, Troy, Alabama. I commute to Montgomery every day, and we have 3 daycares in our town, and 2 of them are church daycares, and then another is a small daycare. And we were on the waiting list for a year before we got our baby girl in there. And at the end of the day, as long as you're loving on my baby and she's happy when I can pick her up, that's all that matters. And so I'm interested to know, or to kind of follow and see how the in-home daycares grow, because I think as a mom, I would rather have that than, a mega center that's an hour away, or, it's not good for me in Troy, Alabama. That's not a thing. That's not going to be possible to sustain. And so for smaller communities, I think that's the route.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you look at it, my wife is a kindergarten teacher, and I can't tell you how many times she has told me that she calls them her babies, but when
Yeah.
when they come and there is a grandparent that basically is the mom. Well, imagine what we did with 3x3 is we're speaking to that grandmother and say, look, if you own your home and you're already keeping your grandchildren, why don't you allow us to help you form a LLC or whatever that might be, a sole proprietorship, actually create the training through Shelton State and deploy that in your life and help you run that business. And now you can be making, instead of being on some type of subsidy, you can be making $40,000 to $50,000 a year doing what you're already doing and loving on children.
Yeah.
And so that's the opportunity. And I think if we can deploy that more and more, there's a lot of things we've got to work out because you're dealing with fire departments and DHR, which is, of course, wonderful thing to do to get licensed. But if we can work those small details out and deploy that across every community college in the state of Alabama and have that program, and even if every community college only launches 5 to 10 a year, that's hundreds and hundreds of individuals that now can enter the workforce. Wow. Sometimes we focus so much on job placement and training and everything else as a state. We have to really start focusing on what are the barriers, even if we train everybody in the state, if they still can't get trained, if they can't get there and they don't have childcare, it's of no avail, right? So that's what is so powerful about what we're all doing together and how we're working together to solve those problems.
Tell me this, what is 3x3?
Yeah.
3x3 is actually the name of the child care training program
Okay. I
at
didn't
Shelton
know if it
State.
stood for like what the 3x3 stood for. I was trying to like mark it in my brain.
I know.
I like it.
And there is, I probably have forgotten it 500
Sure.
times as we started this, but it really is, President John Coe and their team, Holly, who heads that program up, Glasgow,
She's
has
amazing.
just done a great job at putting that program together. So now it is packaged.
Okay.
And I think one of the best things that we could do as Alabamians is to support the community college system and overcoming all of those barriers. So now we have about 1.5 years under our belt. We know what works, what doesn't work, what the barriers are. And if we can get DHR to really pack a punch and align with what we're doing, we can get more child care centers or daycare centers opened in a small way. But that basically, when you look at $50 million which is the right thing that the state did, putting towards child care, but if you look at that, that's only opening maybe 10, right? Centers across the state, and we need hundreds, right?
And
so
the awesome thing about that, I'm just kind of, y'all have already probably thought through all of these things, but the fact that that is through a community college, and then that community college is already connected to so many businesses or partners within the community, it is a ripple effect at that point of service within the community that would, in theory, that sounds like it should take off, like no question.
That is exactly what we did. And so everyone that launches, we already have every seat filled by our connection with the business community. So it's a win-win. So if you start a 3x3 center, you're going to be at full capacity day one that you open. You're going to have support from the business community. And two, the great thing about this is those centers can actually also apply for a Head Start. And so
Pay for it.
yes, you can actually get federal dollars, which is higher than a regular daycare stipend. So there's so many wins in this. We just really need to focus as a state. At the same time, now I will say this, that's not the only answer. We've got to open new centers. We've got to have mega centers. We've got to have more faith-based centers in our communities. So it's going to take all of it together to really make a dent, but this is one way to do that.
How does a community college get involved with that? Or if a person's listening, like, hey, wait a minute, I can do that. How would an individual or a college?
If they're interested in doing that, if they're in a region, they can reach out to us at West Alabama Works at westalabamaworks.com, or they can reach out to Sheldon State. Holly and her team can actually enroll them. So periodically, like I think it's 8 or 9 weeks, we're actually starting a new class. I think there's 28 to 30 in the current class going through that, learning how to start their business. So the beauty of all of this is they handhold you through the entire process and train you on how to run the business, train you on all of the legal, taking care of children, all those things, help you with DHR, help you with your license, everything. And so it really is a, start to finish program.
Do you have anything like that? That blows my mind. Do you have anything like that you've seen for transportation for adults to get to and from?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. We're actually working right now with one of our larger employers in Greene County with the University of Alabama Center for Transportation, the Transportation Institute, in developing technology that will actually map out the best route situations, everything that actually helps an employer. For example, if an employer, and this is the other thing that I think is very important, is we're starting to see where employers are saying, hey, I'm going to have to invest in these big three if I'm going to have the workers that I'm going to need long term. And so as we're working through that, we're actually developing the technology that's going to allow us to do this statewide. That's the other thing that's important about our philosophy in workforce development, is it's not just about us. It's just not about our community. It's about how do we make the state better and how do we solve problems.
Thank you.
And then replicate that. We've got enough egos in this world. What we need is results, and we need to help people. And so, everything that we do, for example, Worlds of Work, we took an idea from Mobile at an event they did. We kind of made it our own, and then we basically gave the roadmap to that. And so right now we have over 40,000 students across the country that are involved in WOW events every single year. And we don't charge people for that. We have people come in from all over the country and are trained on how to do those events, because it's about helping people and not about who gets the credit for it. And I think that's the other thing that we have got to do as a state, is really focus on the results and making a difference, and not worry what organization is getting the credit for it. And I think that's one of the reasons in my opinion, the community college system in West Alabama works so well together, is because it's about us as a whole, as a community, and not just in one organization.
Thank you for all you do. That is amazing.
I told you he was a man of mystery.
Yeah. Well, for our audience listening, when Donny Jones walked through the door, it was like, hey, he's here. So I think that's awesome. Well, I don't know what our time looks like right now.
It's time for a couple more questions.
Yeah. But I think too, just this is your world and you'd speak it all the time. But even with us, with all the things that we do, and I was telling Houston earlier, just as we market and do, there's still so many people that don't know. And so I think I know that we will obviously market this episode, but there's just so much goodness that has just come out of what you've just shared, that I think anybody, whether it's workforce development, a business, a college, a layperson, someone at my church, that would benefit from knowing what is out there. So I'm just thankful that we're able to give a platform today, for sure.
Absolutely. And thank you for having us. I mean, it is a blessing to do what we do every day. Our team really looks at our jobs as ministries, however you look at life. And, we don't do it to get paid,
Sure.
Huge amounts of money or whatever. We do it to help people. And I think that's what makes us successful. You have a lot of passionate people, and that's why, and not just to toot you guys your horn, but I think that's what makes the community college. And that's so important, because a lot of people look at it as a college. It really is a community college, and it's part of the community. It's not just about training. It's not just about education. It's really a part of economic development, workforce development, and the whole structure of community development. And that's why that partnership is so organic for us, because of the heart and the passion of the people who work there. at the community college system. So hats off to you guys too. We would not be who we are without that partnership. The other thing that Houston, you had asked me about was our Career Connect system. And I know for you guys with Pathways for Success, I get Skills for Success and
It's
Pathways.
already
It is.
So they were born
So
at the same time.
yes, and so with Skills for Success, we have right now over 40,000 job seekers that are in our Career Connect system across the state of Alabama. And so one of the things that we want to do is connect, and that's one of the things that our teams are working together is how do we connect those individuals with those opportunities. And so, because a lot of people, when they're at risk, and I was just having this conversation with the team at Bevel and with the Pickens Community Action Group, is at-risk individuals that aren't successful in workforce development are not successful in workforce development for a reason. And so sometimes you have to handhold them through that process. And that's what makes Career Connect different than most job boards. It's our navigators that handhold individuals. They're kind of workforce case managers. And so as we're doing that, Skills for Success is perfect fit for Career Connect and how we can easily deploy those types of skills training through the community college system, no matter where they're at in the state of Alabama. Because I would say most of our job seekers, they're in a short order or short distance, there's a community college, either a community college or an annex close to them. And so that's a real important part, and we're very excited about Skills for Success and what that's going to mean to us. The other part that we're wanting to use Skills for Success for from an economic and workforce development perspective is so many times AIDT is a phenomenal engine for our economy, right? If you're a new industry coming into our state, they're going to take care of your training needs. They're going to onboard you, and that's what sets the state of Alabama apart when it comes to economic development. But what about all of those existing employers?
Exactly.
Which is the majority, right? And so that's why we feel like the deployment of the community college system, the EITP grants to the community college system, and Skills for Success is going to be a game changer for supporting our existing industries.
You know that I don't know that the college has done this maybe once or twice. They could write an EITP grant and partner it with Skills for Success to do other things like the transportation or childcare or whatever. Like it's all in there, but no one does it.
Yes.
Because they see us as, they're going to fund it, but they're only funding the training part, not the
wraparound services. Yeah. That's exactly right.
So the Women's Fund does a good job of requiring that, but EITP seems to be more technical. But I love to hear you say that.
Yeah, and that's what, everybody talks about braiding funds, but nobody really braids funds. And that's one of the things that we focus on is how do we use all these resources? So right now we're working with the team, the workforce team at Shelton, and we have 4 projects right now that are going on between Tuscaloosa and Bibb County that have huge economic implications to our communities. 2 of them is basically keeping an industry here. 2 of them are recruiting and expansion projects. So, when you look at that and you see the role that all of us play together in concert with our economic development partners, it really is something that's very important. And sometimes, and I hate to say it, but sometimes we're all fighting for funding and everything else. And we forget the most important part is the beauty of what's happening when we work together. And so, I appreciate, the fact that our Tuscaloosa economic development partnerships and our economic developers in our rural counties have really learned that, it's not a competition. It really is a concert that we're putting together. And when we're all playing our instrument our way with our talents, then we can actually make some beautiful music, and that usually ends up being jobs and lives changed.
Jobs and lives changed. Yes, exactly. That's beautiful. I heard the orchestra recently in Nashville. They played Star Wars. the movie?
Oh,
One of those deals.
yeah, I'm a Trekkie and a Star Wars geek. So
There was an orchestra in the room. They were so good. It was just like being a little kid watching the movie. But you're exactly right. And coming from college, I was very territorial over my little college and what we did. I had to take a step back from that, working at the system office, and now seeing all the other things out there. This is beautiful. And I know how much Destiny's been working with, is it Robbie from your team?
oh, Bob Johnson. Yes. Yeah.
And watching that unfold, I can't wait for Career Connect to lay over the top of what we have, because our biggest problem is when folks sign up for, they register, they get in the theory, they don't finish theory, or they don't make it to the lab. Well, why not? Because nobody held their hand, because they have other things in their life
That's right.
going on, and we forget that.
Once again, they're at risk and they're in the position, because if you want a job and you have an ounce of skills, you're going to have a job, right? And so those who don't, we've got to understand that they have to be handheld through this process. You know, I hate to say it, but it's almost like the entire community college system needs to take an adult ed approach. You have the academic side, you have the academic side, which that's totally different. But when you're talking about the workforce side, you really have to begin to case manage. You really have to begin to focus on individual needs and meeting those needs. And then almost have, it's kind of like teachers nowadays. Teachers are not just teaching, they're parents, they're counselors, they're community leaders. They have to take on so many different roles that they didn't sign up for when they went to college. It's the same thing with our community college and our adult ed and workforce. But that's the beauty of what we do that's a little bit different than most workforce systems, is we take that approach. And the business approach from being our heartbeat is the Chamber of Commerce. So it is about results and outcomes. And the way you get those is taking care of people's needs. No other way, because at the end of the day, I think sometimes we take the H out of HR, which is human, and it's more about credentials, and it's more about meeting a goal that somebody in an ivory tower has made for us, instead of actually looking and putting yourself in those communities and understanding who people are and where they're coming from and how to meet their needs.
Yep. We had a guy sitting right there, and he was a carpenter on his own business, and he said, if I just had people who could read a tape measure, I can teach them how to do whatever, but they don't know how to read a tape measure.
Oh, yeah.
I can't use them on day one. So I hear you.
Precision measurement.
I wrote down Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that's what you're talking about right there.
Yep.
That goes way back to teacher school. So
Wow.
good stuff. Man, we filled up 40 minutes like that.
Well, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for being on. Final thoughts from either of you?
Just thank you for being here and all the work that you've done over the years. I will say everything that you just described and how many years you've been in the industry and what it takes to have that holistic approach to loving on a person and getting them to the next phase of next chapter of their life really takes time to build. We had a friend on before you, and he talked about building trust with people. And you guys have done that in this area, and then it spreads throughout the state, and then it spreads throughout the country. And so that's big work. That's impactful work.
Well, thank you
So
for saying that.
it's amazing.
Well, we tell people all the time, sometimes it's not about the presence we bring, which is a grant and a free class or whatever. Sometimes it's just the presence of being in the community.
Yeah.
That's very important, and that's what builds that trust. So thank you for saying that, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate what you guys are doing. And anybody that has any questions about what we're doing, I'd love for you to visit our website at westalabamaworks.com. And then if you're a job seeker and looking for your next opportunity, you can always go to our website at westalabamajobs.com. And that way you can apply for, I think we have over 400 plus jobs that are available right now that we're filling for companies.
Yeah. We'll be sure to plug those when we release this.
Absolutely.
About it like crazy.
Great.
Awesome. Thank you, Donnie.
Absolutely.
well done.
Thank you.
Take us away.
All right. That's another episode of Innovation Unplugged. Thanks for joining us. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on all social media platforms. Have a great day.